Okay, so we've talked about strings and some of their methods. And one of the things we said about a string was that it was a container. And it's a container of multiple elements. So what do we mean by that? We mean that each letter is actually a separate letter, a separate element of the string. And so maybe we want to access individual letters in the course of our programming. And so how do we do that? And this is accomplished by using the open and closed brackets as operators. So if we just use that after the name of the string, so just as a reminder, phrase is a string class, and if we add these brackets, we can specify which element we want. And so we can kind of go in order. And we'll notice that I, capital I, can be accessed by using the 0 index. So this number within the bracket is called the index. And then the next one is T, etc., etc. So this is a way to individually access each letter, each element of the string by using this. And let's see. This is actually the same, I believe. Let me confirm, but this is actually the same as the magic method getItem. So basically you can either use the brackets, which is the common way to do it, but if you're wondering exactly how this is working, what these brackets do is it calls this magic method underscore underscore getItem, which then is able to take in what exactly you want. But you definitely want to use the open and close brackets for this, because it actually has some additional kind of sugar that makes it easier to get it if you wanted to have more than one element, for example. So if I wanted the last letter, so let's say I wanted to know the last letter, so I'd count 1, 2, and then this is 3, 4, the space is 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33. So there's 33 different letters, but because the first letter starts with a 0, you would actually use the 32, and then that would give us the last letter of the phrase. And you can see if I did 31, that would be the N here. If I try to go too long, I get an error. This is called an index error, and that means that we've tried to go past the length of the string. We can also use this built-in function called length if we wanted to know the length of an object. And so any sort of container tells you how many elements are within the object. So there's 33 different characters that make up this phrase. So another way we could get the last element is by using the length and then just subtracting 1. So something like this also works. As you can see, something like this is very ugly and very difficult to read, and so one of the philosophies of Python is to make it as easy to read as possible. So you really want to know what exactly the person is doing, and if they're trying to get the last element of an object, another way you can do this is actually to use a negative index. So this would be 0, 1, 2, or you can start with -1, -2, -3, etc. So we can go in reverse order of it by doing it that way, and you'll notice each additional letter kind of moves on that way. Length. So how does length work? Kind of like a lot of different features as we've seen, it relies on magic methods. So you'll notice that one of the methods that is encoded in the string object is called length. And so you could also, for example, get the length that way. Another part that's important to know is that strings are immutable. And so what exactly is that? So this is kind of a peculiarity that's going to trip you up at first. You can't change an element of a string. So let's say I wanted to change the letter U in phrase. So it's fun. So if I wanted to change the U to an A, you might think I could do something like this. But that is not allowed. String objects, you're not allowed to do that. You can never replace part of a string. You would have to create a brand new string if you wanted to do that. And so you'd have to do something like, it's fan to read water ship down. It's fan to read watership down. So if you ever encounter, most likely what's going to happen is that you're going to do something like this, and you're going to get this type error, string object does not support item assignment, and that's the reason why, is because strings are immutable. Okay. So where might you find this useful? So let's say you were storing like a DNA sequence. And you wanted to change the DNA 35G. You might want to change it into a C, for example, but you wouldn't be able to do that. Or let's say there was, you read in a sequence and one of the letters was lowercase and you wanted to fix that. So you couldn't do something like this. This is not allowed in Python. So you notice I used the negative sign in order to count back 1, 2, 3, 4. You can also splice multiple letters, multiple elements at the same time. And so the way you do this is you use the colon sign. And so you separate the first and the last element that you want. So this returns the first 6 letters. You could also do it with this. So if I wanted to return the first 3 letters, I say give me from 0 to 3. If I wanted to do the next ones, 3 to 6, so CGG, for example. You can also do something like this. So you can exclude the 0, and if you exclude the 0, this just means do the start of the string to the 3rd element. So again, we return ACC, and you can also do the opposite. And this would say return starting from the 2nd letter here, and then return all of the letters to the end. So if you have that colon but you don't actually include it, then it just assumes that you mean return to the end of the string. Or you could do something like this, and that will just return the entire string. You can also use negative numbers here. So if I want to start from the 2nd one and go to the negative 2nd, so I've excluded the first 2 nucleotides by using this, and I excluded the last 2 nucleotides by saying -2. So splicing is something that is really useful, and you should definitely get used to it. Get used to the syntax of that, and the only way you get used to the syntax is by practicing it. So you might get a little bit confused at first too, how to So I've created this Python. So let's say I said I want to return the second, third, fourth, and fifth, these 5 letters. And so you might get a little bit confused exactly how that works, but if I wanted to start from the Y, so basically this would be the starting from 0, so 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So if I wanted to start from the Y, I would use the 1. And then if I wanted to return it to the O, I would do 1 to 5. And that would give me what I want. And this is the same as starting from -5 right here. So you can see how it goes from the negative to -1 that way. And then one final thing that you can do, and occasionally this is useful, but in general you don't use it too much, is that you can also specify a skip operator. So what this says is to return every single, so initially we have this with no arguments, and so this says return the entire phrase, but now we've added this third argument, and so what it says is only give me every other letter, or only give me every third letter, or every fourth level letter, fifth letter, and so you see it keeps on getting smaller and smaller. You could also, for example, filter it to, so I start from the first letter, go all the way to the end of the string, and then give me every fifth letter. If you put a -1 there, then it simply reverses the order. So it's fun to read Watership Down, but now it's backwards. All right, so that is the basics of using the slicing operator in order to access individual elements of a container. And we looked so far at how to do that specifically with a string.